Sonic Generations is perhaps one of the most beloved Sonic games of all time. That being said, with the recent announcement of the Sonic X Shadow Generations, there's a lot of questions here, and I wanted to see, in particular, what exactly, or should we say, who exactly, for that matter, is going to be returning here to this latest edition of Sonic Generations. More specifically, though, the Shadow side of Sonic Generations here. So that's what we're going to be focusing on here today then, guys. So if you like what you see from this video and want to see, well, even more content similar to this and then some from me, then be sure to give this video a like down below, and also let me know your thoughts on all this and then some here regarding Sonic X Shadow Generations. What stages from past games or boss characters would you guys like to see make a reappearance here? It isn't exactly every day that this opportunity happens, so for what it's worth, I went through and compiled my own wish list here of sorts to see exactly what I'd love to have featured in Sonic X Shadow Generations here. Going over all this footage, this game, I just gotta say it right now, looks absolutely incredible. You know, it really has a lot of love and care. At least from what I've seen so far, this title seems to be really amping up the stakes here and giving the Sonic series a lot more polish and attention to detail that it rightfully deserves to have. Let's go ahead though and get my first prediction here for the boss battle that I want to return, and that is actually going to be one that I feel is not that popular, but for me it's always been, well, one of my absolute favorites, and that being, well, the first beginning part of Sonic Adventure 2. Dr. Eggman seemingly breaks into a military base for some, at the time, unknown reason, except that he was trying to find his grandfather Gerald Robotnik's project that was mysteriously shut down for some reason. As it's later soon realized, that project is actually not a weapon of mass destruction, but in fact, a hedgehog that in particular looks quite similar to one that we've been seeing a lot more. Yes, that's right, so after unleashing Shadow here upon the world, Dr. Eggman has a lot of planning to do, but before he could get all that underway, the two are briefly interrupted by the military agency known as Gun. So for me, this would be one boss battle that I would love to see reappear here in the Sonic series. Besides the music and the setting for this fight, I feel like this could really tie into the story here and expand on the human aspect of the Sonic world and the lore, and really give a lot of references, of course, to Adventure 2 here, and really help to add in Shadow's backstory. So first up, I'd have to say my first boss battle I want to see would be the gun mech robots here. But you know, for suggestions, maybe perhaps give them an additional phase. Say we're about to defeat the boss, right? We go for that final hit and then suddenly a cutscene triggers. And out of nowhere, the gun mech pilot seemingly transforms their mech and it is able to fly around and attack Shadow here with some other means of weapons or attacks of some kind. I feel like this would put a very interesting spin on this fight and really call back to not just Adventure 2's story featuring them, but also Shadow the Hedgehog as well, which I feel would be very underrated here of Sega and Sonic Team to do, and to take the initiative here and really do something out of left field, just to surprise and shock fans, but mostly probably surprise if I'm being honest. Other than that though, this boss has no other real significance, but it is one that I would really like to have featured again in a mainline Sonic game after so many years here of being absent, and this part of the series, mainly Shadow's backstory, being completely overlooked. That seemingly is not the case with this game. It seems like Shadow's character as a whole is being actually taken quite seriously, but for the better now. I feel like this could really tie into Sonic X Shadow Generations here as a whole, also recreating that iconic first real moment between Sonic and Shadow. After all these years, Adventure 2, let's be honest, hasn't exactly aged the best. While it is still one of the best Sonic games, I'm not denying that here. That aside, I do feel like though that this cutscene and this real fated meeting here of these two hedgehogs, this deserves to be gone over again and revisited here. You know, just to give a little bit more context, perhaps a little bit more elements that weren't present initially in Sonic Adventure 2 at the time, due to the Sega Dreamcast and everything, well, that unfortunately had happened to it. Barring that, I feel like this could be a very interesting boss battle, and could really help to expand, like I said, on Shadow's backstory here, and also on the gun agents as a whole, and what their organization was doing around this time of Sonic Adventure 2, and perhaps even after or before. Anything really featuring them I'd love to see. So then moving right along to number 2 here, the second thing I want to see from Sonic X Shadow Generations, that being the concept of these shadow androids explored further. Occasionally we did see the shadow android pop up a few times during Team Dark's story mode, but it was actually revealed that at the end, after defeating Dr. Eggman, it was in fact Metal Sonic of all people that was the main villain behind everything, pulling the strings of the plot overall and orchestrating the heroes to go and gather the Chaos Emeralds, seemingly to fulfill his, well, goal here of complete and utter world domination. So then, another character I'd of course love to see would be, yes, Neo Metal Sonic. This character, in my opinion, outside of the comic books, has not gotten any real major recognition or love at all, aside from the IDW comics and even before in the Archie Sonic comics. But for me, Neo Metal Sonic deserves to shine, and whether that means having him speak or just having him be mute, I either way would love to have Neo Metal Sonic back in a mainline Sonic game here. But also, like I said, the Shadow Android concept deserves to be explored a little bit more, if not for a few cutscenes here and there throughout the game. I feel like Sonic X Shadow really should at least have them in a boss fight, or perhaps as just an enemy design for one or two of the stages to kind of have players scratch their heads and figure out, what the heck is that? Why are there multiple shadows here? You know, I really feel like this could really add on to the story and call back to, well, Sonic Heroes first and foremost, but also Shadow the Hedgehog. You know, all these little nods and references, going beyond just stages here, I feel really helps to give Shadow a lot more deeper character development here. Because I feel like any real references that make sense in universe, then they're fine. You know, I'm not complaining. But one thing I can't help but wonder, though, that I've always wanted to know, what exactly happened, though, to Metal Sonic at the end of Sonic Heroes? Did we ever get anything about that from Sega or Sonic Team? Did Shadow and Omega just lock him up somewhere in one of Eggman's secret military bases, and they just called it a day? Perhaps we could also see that one day as well. What exactly happened to Metal Sonic after the events of Sonic Heroes? I feel like that's something that also deserves to be explored in a little bit more detail. Heck, any detail at this point. Perhaps we'll get that, perhaps we won't, but if we could at least even have a cameo, even just at this point, a cameo of Neo Metal Sonic would be awesome, in my opinion. But a boss fight, that would just go above and beyond, satisfy my expectations here in terms of Sonic Heroes callbacks. Shadow hasn't exactly had the best character arc over the years here. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So there's only one place we can go next, and that being for my third selection here, originally appearing in, yes, that's right, Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm not even going to go into this game. I feel like it's been ripped on enough over the years and torn asunder. You know, I'm not going to say it, guys. Even when I did my original Let's Play on this, after the first one or two playthroughs, I was completely done. I was just over this game, over the multiple plots that didn't make any lick of sense whatsoever, and I just wasn't having it. But I did what I had to do to finish the game, of course, and get all the multiple endings, that being, yes, 10 multiple endings you have to play through to get the one true final ending, having Shadow here team up with Sonic and everybody else from Sonic Heroes, minus Big the Cat for some reason, to take on Black Doom here and his alien army trying to invade the Earth, or I guess just Sonic's world. I'm not going to go over Shadow the Hedgehog though anymore, narratively speaking, but at least in more recent years here, Shadow's gotten a lot more love and attention from Sega and Sonic Team. For that, I am eternally grateful. And yes, that actually includes Praising Forces here. I know that's a game that's in and of itself highly divisive amongst the fan base, but for me, Episode Shadow was at least one of the shining moments, one of the higher points, you could say, of Sonic Forces as a whole, which isn't exactly saying much, but hey, it's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So for that, I'll always like Sonic Forces, and also expanding on Shadow's backstory a tiny bit here with taking out Infinite and having him become the villain that is, well, the main focus of the game, and how he grew to detest Shadow over the course of the plot here. So for what that's worth, and all edginess aside, I'd say though that everything that's been done to Shadow, well, at least at this time, it seems like at last it's finally paying off. And that's a good thing. Whichever way you guys want to try and compare here. So then going forward, speaking of Shadow the Hedgehog, perhaps the most interesting boss I'd like to personally see return is in fact, yes, Black Doom. Now I know Black Doom will most likely reappear in Sonic X Shadow Generations here as a boss of some kind, perhaps even the final boss for all we know, given the fact that he kicked off the plot here by invading Earth, tasking Shadow with trying to retrieve the 7 Chaos Emeralds for him, to try and fulfill his requirements here for his ritual ceremony, to seemingly have Black Doom then at the last minute turn around, betray Shadow and everyone, and lo and behold, his secret plot is of course secret no more, with wanting to take over the world, and his so-called ritual is nothing more than a scheme to, well, enslave the Earth and take out every human on it. And that being that, I feel like over the years this game has been bashed in so many times by the fan base that at this point, what's done is done. You know, I really don't have any other words for this game other than it was honestly a chore, a big chore, and I can't have any other real thoughts about that. This does not, while looking like a Sonic game, does not feel like a Sonic game, and that really hurts. You know, I thought when I was younger that this game was going to be awesome. It was the follow-up to Sonic Heroes at the time, and you know, I was just excited, and the fact that it was already looking like the same engine it was going to use and the same gameplay and all that. But then, after finishing the game all those years ago, my thoughts have not changed on Shadow one bit. This either deserves a full-blown remake from the ground up, or just a new game and concept entirely. You know, maybe a few flashbacks here and there, and these additional levels being added in, like Westopolis here, of course, from the game's prologue. At this point, I'd rather them just go and have a boost-style game featuring Shadow. What they're doing, though, I mean, all things considered, looks absolutely amazing in Sonic X Shadow Generations, guys. All these extra levels, I mean, what else could we see here besides Black Doom? The only thing I'm worried about, though, with this boss in particular, is how exactly they would make his fight work. Whether we're running the whole time at full speed as Shadow, or chasing Black Doom down through a level, maybe to the end of the goal or something like that, or a similar objective of some sort. This boss battle was painful to play through, and I mean absolutely painful. Downright dreadful, if I'm being honest. We're in a small circular arena, and we're just basically chasing Black Doom around here, trying to pick up weapons and eventually get our hero gauge maxed out, to then use Chaos Control and slow him down to be able to actually hit him and take him out. And that was the entire boss battle. It's just rinse and repeat the entire time. Not to mention the incredibly slippery controls. Just really makes the whole game in Shadow the Hedgehog just one massive slog. Just one huge to-do list. One after the other. At least in Sonic Heroes, I'll say. You know, you had to beat the game 4 times with all 4 respective teams, that being Team Sonic, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix, to get the final ending with Metal Sonic there, but at least that was bearable. So hopefully then, I'm really praying that Sega does not pull any sort of shenanigans here that they did all those years ago with Shadow the Hedgehog, and include the multiple endings aspect. That would be just the one gameplay element that would destroy this experience for me. I'm actually rooting for this game. I want this to be good, I want this to be successful, and I want it to be fun. That's the most important factor here for me. I want this to be fun, and a very, very, very true to form Shadow experience here that pays homage to not just all the games that he's been in since then, but are faithful to his character and really builds him up here to, well, being one of Sonic's best rivals again, like he should be. He deserves to have that spot. You know, that's why he's called the ultimate life form for a reason here. Anyway, though, I digress here, guys. Now that I've given my list here of the top few things I want to see in terms of characters / boss battles here from Sonic X Shadow Generations, what stages or bosses would you want to see return? Do you have any from a particular era here? Or a certain game that you guys want to see return? Perhaps in either the base game itself or in future DLC updates that are either free or otherwise. You know, I feel like with this game, the sky is truly the limit here, and if Sega and Sonic Team want to really capitalize on Shadow here, they could really make this game a huge thing. This could be a really great time to be not just a adventure fan or modern fan, heck, even classic fan. I don't care about any of that at all here. What matters though to me at the end of the day is that this game is good. And not even just that, but that it's fun. Because that's, like I said previously, that's what matters to me most. No matter what stages they choose to bring back or reference or what have you, as long as this game is fun, I don't even care if they'd bring back the stages from Sonic the Hedgehog where you fly on like the miniature dragon. That was actually one of the best stages in that game, on the Space Colony arc. Even if those stages were brought back, maybe not with the vehicles, because those honestly aren't that good, but with the animals though, with flying around, that could maybe work. I really hope though that, like I said, this game succeeds when it's all said and done and when it finally is released here and drops when it is eventually time to do so. I really want this game to do Shadow justice like he rightfully deserves here to have, and to really just expand on his character and the lore. Ever since Sonic Adventure 2, you know, Shadow's just been that character that's been like one of my top 3 all these years, even through Shadow the Hedgehog and yes, Sonic 06 and all that, and everything leading up to the original generations and beyond. It just goes to show though how popular of a character Shadow is, and still is for that matter. So then I'd say on that note here guys, this will just about do it though for things here on my end, and conclude this video featuring my thoughts on the upcoming Sonic X Shadow Generations. I really hope that this game does well and really brings back the Sonic series here to its former glory, and not only helps to, well, bring more love to Shadow, but of course Sonic as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video though from me, and so be sure to let me know your thoughts down below on what you thought of this, and also what stages or bosses would you like to see reappear here in Sonic X Shadow Generations. I've been your host for today, Azure, and I am signing off though, so be sure to keep it tuned right here for all this and then some. So until my next video when we all meet again, I hope you guys all have a great day though, and I'll be sure to catch you all on the flip side. So then everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See you then!